Time to re-up YouTube. Your boy Young Mustard is back with another video, and I'm here to talk about Jordan Poole. Let's just cut to the chase. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I've been waiting to make this video for a pretty long time after the finals ended last year, because even though the Warriors were my pick to win the championship against the Celtics, I was intrigued and concerned about what the future held for Jordan Poole, especially after watching a postseason where he was unplayable at times. And when Draymond punched him in the face in the offseason, it made my level of concern rise even higher. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Jordan Poole is a bad player, but I definitely think that if you want to point the blame at one person for the demise of the Warriors this season, with their inability to make it back to the finals or even make it to the finals for the first time of their playoff career under Steve Kerr, I think the person you gotta look at is Jordan Poole. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely a lot of issues with this roster, but a lot of these problems can be tied back to the fact that they invested so much in their young players, primarily in Jordan Poole. The Warriors this season offensively were one of the better teams in the NBA, finishing top 10 in both points per game and offensive rating. And a lot of that really was in spite of Jordan Poole's underperformance throughout the entire regular season. Despite a career high in his points per game, Poole saw a setback in his efficiency to a large degree, going from 45% from the field to 43%, and now shooting below league average from 3 on the most amount of attempts in his career with nearly 8 a game. He was still a relatively decent scorer for the most part, because being a 20-point per game scorer on league average efficiency is still valuable in this NBA. Unfortunately though, the box score doesn't represent everything when it comes to an offensive player. Poole is definitely a net positive offensively, but not in the way that his 20-point per game average is gonna suggest. He has a lot of flaws in his game on that side of the ball that some people choose to ignore to talk about because they want to talk about the defensive end, and trust me, we're gonna get there, but let's talk about those offensive flaws for a second. For starters, the inconsistencies in his game are through the roof. He could have a play, I'm not talking about a game, I'm talking about a specific play, where he can do a nice dribble combination, get by his man, a sidestep 3 from behind the arc. It just feels like any type of shot you want, he can give it to you on any given play. Unfortunately though, literally on the next play, he could have a banana peel turnover where he just dribbles it off his leg, or he tries to throw it to somebody and it hits the 7th row in the crowd. That's how inconsistent he is on a play-to-play basis. Now imagine on a game-to-game basis, or just stretches throughout the entire season. The IQ from Jordan Poole offensively is truly low at times. He'll come down the court in transition, pull up from 3. He'll take the deepest sidestep 3s at times. He just doesn't really have awareness of the situation. In a sport like basketball, where momentum matters so much and the Warriors were in so many close games because of how weak their defense is and how strong their offense can be on a night-to-night basis, it was a killer for this team on so many nights. But honestly, the offensive inabilities were one thing, but the defensive problems were a whole other thing. When I tell you guys that Jordan Poole is actually one of the worst defenders that I have laid my eyes on this season, I'm not lying to you. He is a bad, horrendous defensive player. There is not a single positive thing that Jordan Poole brings on the defensive side of the ball. His rotations are very poor. He is not good in the pick and roll. He can't fight over screens properly whatsoever. He's not a very physical or strong upper-bodied player, so people can target him in the post in these one-on-one situations, especially if a wing gets him there. But I think the more egregious part of Jordan Poole's defense has to be off the ball, because to be fair, he doesn't even have the build to be a great on-ball defender. I mean, we've seen someone like Steph Curry, who on the ball has not been great throughout his entire career, but off the ball, he has been able to make an impact in multiple seasons. And a lot of that just comes down to effort, IQ, knowing where you need to be at the right time. In the case of Jordan Poole, he simply does not have that. The man ball watches all the time whenever he's off the ball. He allows backdoor cuts, lobs, and at a certain point in time, this is really an effort thing. It has nothing to do with physical tools. He just does not show enough effort on that side of the ball at all. Because being a good, or at least a decent passable off-ball defender, is not about your athleticism. Sure, it can definitely help and aid you on that side of the ball, but we've seen players have the most athletic builds in the league and they still are not good off-ball defenders because of their own IQ or their own effort. Poole simply doesn't show effort on defense, and that's who he is as a player at this point, which leads me why I believe he is most responsible for potentially ruining a dynasty in Golden State. Now, I know many people are gonna hear that and say, what about the others? Because there are other problems with this team. Well, like I said earlier, I firmly believe that every other problem you can name still ties back to Jordan Poole somehow. Let's start off with Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson is pretty suspect right now. After some horrible performances against the Lakers and throughout the whole playoffs, to be quite honest with you, Klay is probably at the lowest point in his career ever since he became an all-star caliber player. He's regressed defensively, and offensively he's as inconsistent as he ever has been. And it's not like he's great at getting to the rim, dribble penetration, anything when it comes to self-creation. He is not your guy. And when we talk about just lack of awareness, my goodness, Klay Thompson has that down pat. There were so many times in this series or in this playoffs where I saw Klay Thompson with the ball and I was frightened at what he was gonna do. Whether it's threes from the hash mark for no reason, shooting over double teams, hard hedges, it's insane the type of shots that Klay Thompson will throw up there throughout the course of a game. But despite how bad Klay Thompson was at points in the playoffs and even regular season, who was the player that they invested into to fill in those gaps that Klay Thompson left as a player? Because we already knew Klay Thompson was on the decline. I mean, even though he was able to contribute in the playoffs last year, it's not like he played that exceptional. The man was coming off of back-to-back season-ending injuries, the worst ones you could have actually, an ACL and an Achilles tear. Jordan Poole was paid in part to be that supporting piece to keep getting better and rise to all-star stardom while Klay Thompson was in decline. So in simple terms, they basically brought in Jordan Poole and paid him the amount of money that they paid him in the offseason because they wanted him to be the co-star to Steph Curry. Basically replace Klay Thompson's role on this roster. And if anything, even supersede Klay Thompson in some ways offensively as a self-creator that Klay never was. Then you throw in their bench. Their bench was an issue throughout the entire season, primarily defensively. I mean, their bench was so bad on the defensive side of the ball that they had to go out there and get Gary Payton again. Their starting lineup defensively was basically okay. They had Kevon Looney that was playing well at the rim. You have Draymond Green, who's one of the best defenders in the world, and Andrew Wiggins, still one of the better perimeter defenders on the wing. But unfortunately, the bench was so bad on the defensive side of the ball, it was insane. Dante is a solid defender on the perimeter, but he's nothing special. Kuminga's athletic, but his IQ definitely comes into question. Moses Moody wasn't great defensively for a good chunk of the season, even though I liked that effort at times. And don't get me started on players like Anthony Lamb, Ty Jerome, or even the time they spent with James fucking Wiseman. That dude sucks. So off rip, the bench supporting pieces defensively are not great. But guess who was one of the worst ones there? And you could argue the worst defender on that bench, Jordan Poole. Poole was basically supposed to at least be decent defensively this year, or at least show some type of strides, and if not, offensively make up for it in a major way, which he did not do. Now I know some people are gonna say, what about the other young guys? You got James Wiseman, who was clearly garbage this year. They had to ship him to Detroit. And you got Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, those two wings that didn't really take the step forward that a lot of people hoped for. And to that, I can understand those complaints, but I would say that Jordan Poole does have somewhat of a responsibility in that. Poole was supposed to lead the bench unit, and if we're being real here, he did not do that effectively. I mean, at the end of the day, he can't hold their hands, but he didn't put them in the right positions to succeed when they shared the court together. Because not only did he show a lack of effort defensively, but offensively, he had an issue of getting others involved and kind of being a ball hog at times. I mean, Poole is an okay passer, but it's not like his reads are advanced or anything special. Let's be serious here. And for a guy like Moses Moody, who is not a shot creator and is reliant on shot creators to get him good shots and good looks, combined with Jonathan Kuminga, who is basically a play finisher, a decent cutter, lob threat, athletic, if Jordan Poole steps up and fulfills his offensive role and responsibility to lead that bench unit, I do believe they play better as a result of it. No matter how you slice it and dice it, a lot of the issues on this team tie into Jordan Poole's expected improvement. And it'd be one thing if he just replicated his offensive production in the regular season to the playoffs, but unfortunately that's not what happened, as Jordan Poole went from a 20-point per game scorer to someone who barely averaged double digits of 10.3 points a game in the playoffs, along with 3 assists and 2 rebounds, while shooting some of the worst shooting splits of his entire career. 34% from the field, 25% from 3 on nearly 5 attempts a game, 76% at the free throw line, which all accumulates to a disgusting, nasty true shooting percentage of 44%. Poole in no way, shape, or form was a positive in this playoff run. We're talking a negative offensively and defensively. And look, many people could say this was a learning experience for Jordan Poole, not only in the playoffs, but throughout this entire year. But this is really the problem when you pay these young scoring guards this amount of money. Poole never showed flashes of being a generational offensive talent. That is not what Jordan Poole was for the Warriors last year or even 2 years ago. Poole was really a spark plug offensive player, someone that you could plug in for around 20 to 25 minutes and give you instant offense. Players like him, Tyler hero, they get overvalued so much in the NBA these days. They don't provide anything defensively, and as playmakers, they're mediocre at best. And that's why now both of them have some of the worst contracts in the NBA. And on a team like Golden State, it was very fortunate that they were able to play him in some of those minutes in the playoffs last year and still find a way to win the championship. It really is a testament to how well the players around him performed to hide his inefficiencies. And because he was able to cook in a lot of those moments, primarily against the Nuggets in round 1 and Draymond Green punched him in the face, he was able to secure generational wealth and finesse the shit out of Golden State. I mean, I can't blame him, but at the end of the day, that contract does now put them in a hole because it starts next season. It didn't start this year, it starts next year. And with Draymond Green now being on a player option, Klay Thompson's contract about to be due soon, it really does beg the question on what the Golden State Warriors future is going to look like outside of Steph Curry. And the fact that that really is a question when we know Jordan Poole is supposed to be that second guy next to him really goes to show how disappointing of a season not only it was for Jordan Poole, but for the Golden State Warriors as a whole. But hey, you guys let me know your opinions down below. Here's the question of the day I want to know you guys' opinions on. Should the Golden State Warriors trade Jordan Poole? You guys let me know your opinions on that down below. Do not forget to also like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Press that bell for post notifications. This is your boy Young Mustard signing out. Peace.